If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today's guest is Janice Usherwood. Some people might know Janice from her horse Tavistock Miska and the Usherettes. Janice is a dressage specialist, coach, trainer, competitor. She's competed up to Grand Prix on 7 different Grand Prix horses, and she's got students training to Grand Prix as well. How are you today, Janice?
I'm fine, thanks, Glenys.
That's good. Now, Janice, we normally start off with a favourite quote. Have you got one for us?
I've got a couple, actually.
Good.
And they're things that shape my thinking a bit, and they're also two that I use all the time when I'm teaching. Mm-hmm. And one is that with tension, there is no dressage, and I can't remember who said it. I stole it from someone years ago. And the other one is just a quote of the FEI rule that contact is what the horse takes when the rider drives it forward to the hand. And I use both of those all the time because I don't like a lot of what I see, put it that way.
Yes, and I think that's good, reminding us about what contact is.
Yeah, that's the FEI definition. Yeah. And and that's what you try. Very difficult to get, but that's what you sort of work on your whole life, I think.
Yes. Do you remember your very first memory with horses? Very first time or just a very early memory?
Well, it's a long time ago. I was taken as a toddler on the front of the saddle to get the cows in.
Okay.
My mother's family were on the land at Gundagai, and I can remember my uncle sitting me up. I don't even know if I could walk, and sitting up on the front of the saddle, going out to get the cows in.
Wow.
That's where the rocks fit in right from an early age.
Okay, then. Now, a long time from there to where you are now. I'm thinking about when you first left school, when you were going through. Were you always going to do something with horses? Was that always on the cards or not?
No, I always had horses. I even had a horse at school when we lived in the city.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to win 2 scholarships that my father had entered me for, and my parents foolishly said, you can do whatever you like with they were secondary school, with one of them. So I went out and bought a horse, and we were 6 miles BPO.
Okay.
That was Miska's mother.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep.
And so I always had them. I had them through uni and stuff. But no, I didn't ever really think that I would do it full time, mainly because of the expense.
Were there careers, thinking about when you left school? I mean, if you I know when I talked to the guidance officer, they just said, didn't see past being a stable hand. There wasn't really a career with horses.
And there actually weren't. Weren't many opportunities either.
Yeah.
No, I just went to university and then I ended up being a school teacher.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I had the horses as my hobby. I did a bit of teaching on weekends, and I was into showing and all sorts of things, breeding, showing, bit of jumping, bit of this, bit of that, Western, everything. And it was halfway through my teaching career that I decided I wanted to do something else.
Okay. Yep.
And when I got rid of my mortgage, mm-hmm. I sold a property and moved and cleared my mortgage and bought the second property.
Okay.
And then I thought, without a mortgage, I was going to give it a go.
Yes.
And that was a long time ago.
Tell me about if someone wants to work in the horse industry. There's a lot more variety now in the horse industry than there was when you started.
Yeah.
A lot more jobs, a lot more different occupations, both with horses and having direct contact with horses, but as horses as a secondary thing too, so that they're industries that complement the horse industry.
That's right.
If someone's going to work with horses, what do you think are the core skills or character traits that they need?
Well, they I used to have a few kids that do work experience at school, so I'd have them for a week.
Yes.
And they're 16. They all think we all have a property, and I'll ride horses and train horses and represent Australia at the Olympics.
Yep.
And which is a wonderful dream to have. But when we sat down and did the economics of it, I could say, you're better off being a lawyer and have a horse part-time until you've got a high profile. And so if people actually want to do the riding and showing bit, they have to have a high profile first or have very wealthy parents. It's still a very hard way to make your living. All the ancillary stuff, I'm not 100% familiar with.
Yep.
But I know people that do, chiropractic and massage and stuff like that. But I'm not sure how you become skilled enough in that to earn a decent living, to pay for a car and buy a property and pay a mortgage and things like that. So I usually recommend to kids that they do that part-time until they are sure they're out of debt and they can possibly make a living.
So start to work with horses part-time.
To work with horses. Unless you want to be a stable hand, fine. Yeah, but if you want to actually, live a sort of comfortable life, not that's all that comfortable, or if you want to, have the own property, have the car, do the shows, things like that, to be successful in whatever you choose, you've got to have a fairly high profile and a few skills, and which means you've been doing it for a while.
I think too, some people think that I'll just go out and become a coach, and that's great.
Yes.
But remembering too that when they first get their first qualification, that's their first qualification, and that's the step to learning more about horses. There's always stuff to learn more about horses. And, you're not going to, as you say, step off the block and go into a well-paying, high-profile job. You've got to actually put the hours in and learn more and get those miles in before you can.
And I don't think the concepts of dressage anyway are things you explore your entire life. I do a bit of training with some international guys that come out, and you have an epiphany every time you have a lesson, basically, or something clarified that you've been working with for 40 years.
Yes. And
I don't think it ever changes. I think you just get it all as you die, basically.
It'd be a bit boring if it did, though, wouldn't it?
Would, yeah. And it's basically simple, but it's not easy to do it well, I think. And my big thing is that doing it well means that the horse stays relaxed.
Yes.
And wants to do it.
Yes.
That's my big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just which is where the tension equals not dressage.
Yes. Yes.
To me. That's my personal thing, and that I'm sort of fanatical about. And if your horse is relaxed, and you can train any horse to Grand Prix, and they'll do it for 20 years if they stay sound.
Yep.
And we see a lot of tension out there.
What do you think's the best thing about working in the horse industry, working with horses?
Oh, the animal.
Yep.
Pure and simply the animal. They're pretty amazing animals. I still cannot work out why they get on a float for us, why they let us put a saddle on and ride them around.
Yep.
So I think it's just the animal, and that's what should draw you to it in the first place.
Yes. Yes.
And it doesn't matter what breed it is. It doesn't matter how big it is. They're a very interesting animal. Yeah.
Tell us about someone who's influenced you.
Oh, so many people.
Yep.
The very first one, however, I could tell you, I used to watch horses being broken in the bush, and while they weren't sort of damaged, I noticed that they were usually stressed. And I'm a bit of a reader, and I got onto the books of Maurice Wright, who did Death of Spain, and I found that amazing. And I started, breaking in horses quite young, and having a go anyway, and catching foals that had been caught and all that sort of stuff. And that whole way of approaching a horse appealed to me, and it worked. And so they didn't have to be exhausted and eyeballs rolling and sweat pouring off them, etc., to get them to accept a saddle, bridle, and a rider. And I think that was probably very influential. And then as I started to want to do dressage and stuff. I think the first really influential book was Riding Logic. And I just devour them all. I love Kira Kirkland's books. I love Carl Hester's philosophy. They're all basically pretty much the same. And as an ancillary to that too, I actually am a friend of Monty Roberts. I got to know him. I ride for him when he comes out to Australia, and we get on like a house on fire.
Good.
And for the same reasons. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's been a terrific journey actually with Monty.
Yep.
So so it's all part and parcel of the same thing.
Yes, it is, isn't it? It's all about finding that common communication where you can communicate with the horse, but they've got time to communicate back to you with what works for them. Yeah. Maurice Wright's book was The Thinking Horseman. Is that the one?
I can't even remember. And I think he did the Jeffrey method as well. I think it might be a book. I'd have to go out and look at my library.
Of course. No. It was called the Jeffrey method. Yes.
Yeah, I think he promoted. Yeah, he promoted the Jeffrey method, and I saw him somewhere. I can't even remember. I saw him give a demo, and I was just rapt.
Tell me, when he did the demo, because I've heard that it was a bit of a trick in the book. Oh, you saw Maurice Wright, or you saw Kel Jeffrey do the demo?
Yeah.
Because apparently, when Kel Jeffrey did the demo, someone saw it, or Maurice saw it the very first time, and they said they had a young horse, and as he was getting on, the bucket tipped over and the horse didn't move, right? But apparently he used to do that all the time. He had the horse, he knew.
Yeah, we've got a very good breaker near me, almost retiring. I always say 75% horse.
Yep.
And he hops on these horses for the first time on a 5-gallon bucket and he always falls over.
Yes.
And they don't move.
Yes.
They do not move. Yeah. Or they might step sideways and he just puts it up again and gets back up on it. And he does that. And he's a brilliant horseman.
Yeah.
And we get on very well together too. Because it's a little bit the same sort of attitude, just without all the fancy tricks.
Yep.
That are required in dressage.
Yes. Tell us about, you've had 7 Grand Prix horses. Tell us about the one who's influenced you the most.
I think I've managed to compete on 7.
Yeah.
Basically, horses just came my way.
Okay.
Or other people's horses, yeah.
If you had to pick one of them, which one influenced your career the most?
I don't know. The first couple I had, like Little Mishka, he was almost too clever. He was cleverer than me. He somehow picked up what I wanted. But the one I had, Nelson, who was a total lunatic, and people can remember him, and I had to learn how not to offend or frighten him.
Okay.
He probably made me think the most because he was sort of a bit dangerous, dangerous to do anything with, dangerous to shoe, float, panicked, just went panicked. Never grew up from a foal, but it was 17 hands and very powerful. And, I think, the fact that I wouldn't even bother with a horse like that now, but when you're young, you think you can do it. And I think he probably actually taught me the most.
Okay.
Patience, plan number 365, doesn't work, move on to the next one. But I got that he could actually do all the stuff. He just could not cope with the world, travel, stables, things like that. So he probably did teach me the most.
Okay.
Even though it was so frustrating and so hard.
Okay.
And he ended up, he died quite young. He found it. He stress found it, which was most unusual in a big warm blood like that. And it ended up killing him. But, I think probably because even my farrier had to change his attitude to shoot this.
Yeah.
He was very interesting. A lot of people will remember him too. When he died, I got so many cards. Because
nice. Yep.
Because you couldn't miss him. He was very impressive, but he was very erratic.
Yeah.
But you need patience, and he taught it. But prior to him, I thought I could do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think your proudest moment's been?
Oh, I don't know about proud. You ride horses, you have really good highs and you have really big lows. You have, especially in dressage, you never know what mark you're going to get in dressage until you look at the scoreboard. So you can be very happy with your test and it scores badly, and you can think you've just done the worst test you've ever done and you can win. It's hard to know, the highs and lows. I think you feel great when you feel you've managed a pretty okay sort of a test.
Yep.
But I don't know that proud is a word. That if you're proud, if you think you start getting proud, you crash badly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can have really delightful moments and you can feel pretty good, but you must never get too cocky.
Yes. Okay.
It's a funny old life.
Yes. 7 Grand Prix horses, that's a fair few. What do you think's been your biggest challenge to riding that many, competing on that many, having that many? I shouldn't say that, because the riding and competing are irrelevant when you say getting 7 horses to Grand Prix level. What do you think your biggest challenge has been?
Yeah, I just think they can all do it. They can't all do it brilliantly. You've got to have the fabulous horse with fabulous movement, especially these days.
Yep.
And some of these horses are pretty ordinary. I just think you just start training them, and if you can keep them relaxed, and it's a couple of steps forward, a couple of steps back, and you just adhere to the basic principles, which are all written down. It's all been worked out. It's nothing new. It's in every book and every video that you see on training. It's training scale, and it's rhythm and looseness and relaxation, number 1 and 2. I think if you just keep that in mind, you can make lots of mistakes if your horse doesn't want to kill you, and you just sort of plod along. I just plod along, really. And I think they all can learn to do it. And I just get a little bit of a buzz out of the training. I'm not the best competitor. I often don't do really good tests. I haven't got that sort of right attitude towards competing, I don't think. But no, I just enjoy. I can't help myself, really. I just enjoy training them, and I just keep going. And some of the most unlikely horses end up doing the stuff, and you never know which one's going to be good or bad at different movements until you try it. So I just start and just keep going. Okay. And I encourage people to do that. So, keep your horse happy. You have ups and downs, of course, and you go backwards and forwards. But the horse will try for you, and then you just plod along. Yeah. I've never had the luxury of being able to travel much or go out and buy something really special. And I'm past it now, so that's I just had to deal with what I had. Okay. But it's been an interesting journey, and I think that helps with your teaching anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if someone turns up on a Shetland pony, you try to get them to go according to the same principles. That's how I look at it anyway.
Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks. Thinking about, someone turning up on a Shetland pony or thinking about all your students, what do you think's the most common fault that you see with them?
Thinking that the horse knows what to do and just doesn't choose to do it. Okay. Calling, to me, a horse that's hot is a horse that has too many rugs on. I think it is a horse is tense or frightened, or it can be a bit lazy, it can be a bit goey, all those things. But I reject the word hot unless they are sweating. Okay. And I think we use a lot of words, a lot of expressions, and a lot of phrases so that we don't have to admit that our horse is tense. And I think that's the big killer. I think that's what stops horses advancing and people. And yes, you can believe your horse is thinking the night before that he's going to, refuse to go left or something. But they actually don't. They can't. And if the horses were that clever, they wouldn't let us near them, I don't think. So I think that's, and also being patient. It takes a long time. Okay. And everybody's in a mad hurry, and people are proud of the fact that they've rushed them through. So, I think with people, just getting to understand the animal a little bit. But most of my clients now because I can pick and choose a bit now and I'm cutting down on numbers, are people that want to sort of enjoy their horse.
Yep.
And they're my main, and they want the horse to go happily. So they're my main clients these days.
Okay.
So it's quite a pleasant thing to teach them. And the people who, believe their horses are bad or want to fight them, there's plenty, I just sort of say, well, our philosophies are different. Try someone else. And, but if you want to change mine and come back, I'm here. And that's my attitude too. I think, people, you find you don't go to an instructor and try and change his or her philosophy. You go to someone who has the same one. But so I've got a lovely clientele actually.
Okay.
And they sort of we find each other a little bit.
Yes.
And,
okay.
And the other thing, and I say to people too, because a lot of people want to compete, but we put so much weight on competition. Put a whole lot of weight on the 5 minutes or so that we spend in an arena, and I try to impress on people that if you do a bad test, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad rider. It might be, but it's not automatic. You can just have done a bad test.
Yep.
And it's not a moral judgment, so it should not destroy your entire day, week, year or life. And there are some people that are very excellent test riders, and there are some that aren't so good, but they can still enjoy the riding of the horse and just try to do better things that don't lose you so many marks. So I often think we equate good rider with good test, and sometimes morally, better person with good rider.
Yep.
And there's sort of no connection really. So riding, I use the test, and I want as a test. You're going to find out what you've got to fix, and you've got to find out why you gave marks away. And but it's not a moral judgment.
Yep.
Because especially some kids, they get really upset if they've done a bad test and they think their life's about to be over.
Yes.
Or that they must be a bad rider. Not necessarily. So and I think that all goes in with the same sort of attitude.
Okay.
But I'm not one who thinks that you stay at home and don't go out, and that's somehow a pure form of horsemanship. I don't think that either.
No.
I think a test is a test, and it's a very good name for it.
Yep. And something that you said about, it takes a long time, and sometimes you've got to teach the riders that. What do you say to the riders that say, well, I've got plans to get this horse to medium by the end of the year, and that's what it's going to be? I mean, do you keep teaching, or you have a talk to them? What do you?
I say maybe not.
Okay.
You can have all sorts of aims and objectives, but you must be governed by whether you progress or not on your horse.
Yep.
In other words, if you want to go and compete medium, you really should be working advanced St. George. So you're not going out hoping stuff happens.
Yep.
You reduce the odds of things going badly. But when you're taking your first horse through, you don't really want to think like that, and I can understand that too. But you just talk as the wise old person who's made all those mistakes.
Okay.
And some people listen and some people don't. That's all.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So, but we do put a lot, and I don't know that I've got a lot of clients from actual results. And I've had a few really good horses that I've ridden. It's more from way of riding and stuff that I've got the clients. And some of the people I teach that are full-time rider instructors find the same thing. So being out in public is a little bit your advertisement for yourself, but not always. The blue ribbon doesn't always guarantee its client. Some people just look to a way of going or a way of handling horses. I think that's what they tell me anyway. So that's the way it's been most of my life. So consequently, I've never advertised. I've never had to advertise.
Okay, good. So you talked about Morris Wright, Jeffrey Method, Kira Kirkland, Carl Hester, Monty Roberts.
Yeah.
Any other books that you wanted to mention or authors?
There probably are, but now that you've said, I can't think of a single one. But I've got Franz Meyeringer's book.
Yep.
which is the same philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
They all preach the same message, actually. And at one stage, when I went through my Western phase,
Yep.
on little Mishka, who was then doing FEI,
yep.
we decided to go Western. I read some of the Western books, and while what you see today is often not what I like, the training and stuff behind that was pretty much the same. Just a little bit different concept of contact. But the attitude to the horse was pretty much the same. And I had to go to eventing and I did all that sort of stuff. And so I used to read people who were involved in that particular sort. Pat Smythe, remember Pat Smythe? We're going back a long way. And I'm just trying to think of something recent. If you threw titles at me, I'd probably know them. But those, all the ones I've mentioned are ones that formed, I think, my way of thinking. And what I read now, I read articles that come up online all the time. And generally you just say, yeah, that's right. So it all goes back to those original titles, I think. And Carl Hester, of course, he's a man of the moment. And I just love his delivery and I love his attitude. And so I went and got his book and read that too. And I love clicker training, play with that. I love Georgia Bruce's book. I've lent that to someone. And so the latest one I read was, what's his name? He's a breaker, just written a book about breaking. I can't even think of his name. But it's terrific. Davies. And it's about breaking in and training, and it's terrific too. It's sort of handling them without fear. So, I think basically the message and all those good things is pretty much the same.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Now, Janice, what are you looking forward to now? I know you've said you've got a Grand Prix horse in the paddock that you're riding. You're going to start competing him again. What else are you looking forward to?
I don't know. I've got a little Spanish horse that was imported, belonged to a client, and she gave him to me because I've damaged my back in a car accident and I fell off a horse and I can only have a narrow horse now, a little one.
Yep.
He's terrific. He's a character. He's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I just sort of think day to day, I'd like to actually do a little bit of travel and stuff. But
yep.
I'm really thinking that just letting the business run down a bit, and I'm sort of. I just ride. I ride him when my body lets me, and I'll probably end up going out because I can't help myself.
Okay.
And I've got a very lovely, beautiful horse, Orlando, that Sally Quigley rides for me. Mm-hmm. And I go to lots of shows and things. But these days I clean the socks.
Okay. All right. Now, just in a couple of sentences, can you sum up your philosophy with horses?
It's hard to summarise, I suppose.
Yeah.
I sort of think maybe I've said it all. I think my philosophy is that you try to work with the animal rather than against it. And that doesn't mean that you don't ask a lot. But I think you've just got to recognise when the animal gets a bit scared or a bit tense or a bit confused and take it on yourself. And then you can sort out the issue.
Okay.
I mean, I think from my teaching days, I think you don't bash a kid to make it read a book. Doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably my overall philosophy. And people think, I've had someone once say to me that it's a lovey-dovey approach, but it's not. You're very strict disciplinarian because they're big things that can actually damage you.
Yes.
But you've just got to be a bit fair, I think, or not kid yourself as to why an animal's misbehaving in inverted commas. Mm-hmm. And I think that just keeps you safe and sound, and I think ultimately you enjoy it a bit more.
Yes.
Which we should.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How can people contact you, Janice? Because we'll have a page for you and it'll be horsechats.com/Janice Usherwood. Or if people go to horsechats.com, search for Janice or search for Usherwood, they'll find you. But give us your contact details so that we can put those on the page.
My email address is just, because I don't have a card or anything, I don't have a website. I've got a Facebook page under my name, and which is where I do most of my communicating these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got an email, which is just Usherwood, all small, all one word, at bigpond.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll put those details.
And can I finish off with one other thing I say to everybody? That when you get off from schooling your horse, the only thing that should hurt is your brain. That's all.
Okay.
I say that a lot too. People get really sick of it.
I think that's a good message to leave people on. So I just want to say thanks very much, and thanks for chatting to us, and lovely to talk to you.
My pleasure. Hope to see you one day, maybe.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.